All right, you beautiful people, retirement in Peru. It's something you all have asked me for, and I have finally done my research and am ready to talk about it. What is it like to retire in Peru? And what are the good, the bad, and the ugly? And also, what are the qualifications you need personally in order to move here? All of these are important if you're considering a retirement in Peru, so I'm going to talk about all of them. But quick disclaimer, I myself am 25 years old, so I have no idea what people are actually looking for in retirement. However, that being said, I have a general assumption of what you might be looking for, so I'm going to try to touch on those particular things, and then if you have any additional questions, let me know down in the comments about how is this particular thing, or how is that particular thing, so I can answer that in the comment section, or if it's a large enough category that I missed, I will make an entire video about it. So, that being said, here we go. So as far as retiring to Peru goes, there are 3 places that come to mind that would be good options for you based off of what you like. Now, there are more. One of the first recommendations that I will give to you is if you plan to retire to Peru and you meet all the qualifications, come here for 3 months or so and travel to different areas to find out which area you like the best, because there's vast differences. The Sacred Valley and Lima are very different, and also Arequipa is very different, and Iquitos is very different. So that being said, there are 3 places that come to mind when we're talking about retirement, and I'm going to talk about them based off of the type of person that you might be. So if you're someone who likes their space, wants to not really have a bunch of people come through, you like to have a lot of nature, and you want to be kind of kept to yourself, and you could venture out when you want to, but for the most part you just want your own space, you're going to want to probably come to the Sacred Valley or somewhere in this general region. The temperature and climate is pretty hospitable. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. If you invested some money in the right place, or if you bought your own house and built it from the ground up, you could make sure that it's heated from the inside. A lot of the houses here aren't, so you would probably need to pay for that. Gas, hot water, stuff like that. All that stuff is very easily manageable, and you can acquire it very easily here. So Sacred Valley is for those, I guess, recluses. I don't know. I myself am a recluse. I don't think of it as a bad thing. However, that's the type of person. That same type of person could work really well in Lima. If you're going to Lima, I assume that you're retiring and wanting a really comfortable lifestyle. So you're going to want to be in Miraflores. That's going to be the most beautiful, well-kept area. It's going to be the most access to things. There's a lot of culture there. It's really close to the beach. So all of that stuff kind of check across the board. It gets very hot in Lima, and it gets very cold in Lima. Very being a strong word. If you're from, Maine, it's going to be no sweat off your back. And if you're from Arizona, the heat's going to be no sweat off your back. But you're going to get one extreme that is a bit more than you're used to in your area, most likely. So keep that in mind as well. However, that's going to be your city life. That's going to be people who like to go out. There's probably going to be groups of other retirees there that are English speaking that you could meet up with very easily. That's probably going to be the place where if you like to go to the cafe, hook up your computer, maybe your hobby is to make music on your computer, you can do that easily, connect to Wi-Fi and get everything you need. They also have actual supermarkets, so you can go in and buy food in a supermarket instead of going to like a farmer's market here, but it's not as glorified as you're thinking. It's great, it works well, but not as glorified as you're thinking. And then your next option, if you really like adventure and you want to do adventurous things in your retirement, you're probably looking towards the Amazon jungle, like Iquitos, Pucallpa. Iquitos is a little sketchy, however, there are some nice areas. Pucallpa is a little sketchy as well, but there are some nice areas. Bright side is there's tons of adventure to be had there. You could pay people to take you pretty much anywhere in the Amazon and show you around. You could go fishing for piranhas and all that stuff. Not super labor intensive, but fun and adventurous in your old age. However, your access to general comforts is going to be a lot more difficult out there, specifically if you choose to buy and build in the Amazon jungle. It could make a great house. You'll get rain all the time. It'll be beautiful, but you won't have easy access to things. Now, there are many other areas like Arequipa. I'm going to touch on Arequipa quickly. I know a lot of locals here who are trying to move away from there because it's getting more dangerous than it once was. The Sacred Valley has virtually no crime rate as far as I know. I haven't done intense research on this, but I've never even seen anyone get arrested for anything other than being too drunk and going to the drunk tank. It really doesn't happen here. It's such a small community that it doesn't make any sense. Lima has a little bit more of a crime rate, but if you stick to Miraflores, you're probably okay. And then Iquitos and Pucallpa, I have no idea the crime rate. Iquitos is a little sketchy, but that doesn't mean it has a high crime rate. I just felt a little uncomfortable there, but it's just not something that I'm used to. I'm not saying it's bad. You should check it out and see for yourself what I mean. Anyway, so let's talk about access to things that you might want to do. So I assume if you're retired, you might want to have certain hobbies or do certain things. Now, a lot of things for the reclusive type person are very readily available here in Peru. And specifically, well, I guess everywhere. But if you want to paint and garden and do all that fun stuff, you'll probably want to be in the Sacred Valley. There's plenty of opportunity for that. You could also get into painting in Lima as well. But my point is, you have a pretty wide across the board access to hobbies. If you're interested in a hobby that other people do regularly and you want to do it with other people, like for example yoga, there are parts in the Sacred Valley where it will work. However, you'll probably have more success on a regular basis in Lima itself. So any group style activities, stick to Lima. Unless you come here, and this is why I'm saying check it out, because unless you come here and find a hidden 55 and plus community that I didn't even know about, that are all English speakers from Western Europe and from the United States, I don't know, they might exist. I might not have bumped into it. So the next thing, access to hospitals. The Sacred Valley has virtually no access to hospitals. The closest one to me at the current moment, I think, is like an hour and a half plus. There are small pop-up emergency clinics that are good for treating trauma, like traumatic wounds, and that are good for treating like parasites and all that kind of stuff. But like if you had a heart attack, I don't know how well that would fare here. And I don't see you getting a helicopter coming out to get you unless it's from Lima, which is going to take an hour to get here anyway. Maybe a little bit longer depending on flight speed, all that stuff. I don't know the logistics, but so hospitals. Lima has hospitals like real actual hospitals. Cusco has a real actual hospital, but it's nowhere near as advanced or as big as the one in Lima, or the multiple in Lima. Yeah, so there's that kind of stuff. What else was it? Community, I kind of touched on that, but Lima is going to have the most probability of coming across other like-minded people who are from other countries. Peru, the outer areas of Peru, like the Sacred Valley and Iquitos and Arequipa might, I don't know, but Iquitos, Sacred Valley, Pucallpa, those places, it's really a matter of chance and what kind of communities you're in and how lucky you get. But the bright side about the Sacred Valley is, though, a lot of people, of Westerners live in Pisac. You may not want to live in Pisac, although if you do live here, that's where some of the nicest houses are. It's also where some of the most expensive houses are. But there's a pretty constant influx of new stuff. Like if you want a beat board to just make music because you were a music producer in your working life and you don't want to give it up, you could easily acquire that there because they come through. Or if you want to learn a new instrument, Pisac is going to be a really great place to get those items. And there's lots of like yoga and stuff going on there. So those are the big things that I could think about, particularly whether hospitals, hobbies, community. I think that's everything. If there's anything else I missed, let me know. So now let's talk about, are you qualified? So first and foremost, in order to become anything other than a tourist in Peru, you need to pass a background check. I'm not sure how severe it is. I'm not sure what the severity of your criminal history is to get denied, but they do ask you for a apostilled background check from the United States. So an FBI background check with a Secretary of State seal on it to mark its approval will work. I didn't say this. You could probably potentially get it forged, but don't. But you could probably. I don't know. That's you're getting into risky territory. But if you've committed enough crimes to get to the point where you can't come into Peru, maybe you could get around it. I don't know. But that being said, you need to pass a background check, and I recommend that you go through the FBI, or if you have a connection, like you were a police officer, go that route. After that, there are a few different options that you have. So the first one is the retirement visa. That's the one that I feel like most people are probably going to try to fall under. So essentially, all you need for that is, in order to get a retirement visa here in Peru, you need to have $1,000 a month of income from some passive source. Passive is not well defined. However, my lawyer told me that just investments doesn't work. I think dividends does work, but it just, like, investments don't. So your dividend amount needs to be above 1,000, not just your stock growth every year. But it really applies to things like pensions, royalties, stuff like that. Stuff where it's truly passive. You have to do nothing to keep it. It just pays you every single month or 4 months, depending on what it is. So you need that. You need to have $1,000 for yourself, and every dependent that you are bringing, you need an additional $500 for that person in order to give them the visa as well. They can come back and forth as tourists, but if you have a wife, for example, or if you have a husband, for example, you or a significant other of any kind, you're most likely going to want them to be with you. So you need $1,500 minimum to get 2 people here in passive income each month. That only comes out to like $12,000 on the low end, $18,000 on the high end, and it needs to be transferred into a Peruvian bank account where you can prove it. It will be your bank account, but it has to be transferred into a Peruvian bank account. So once you do that for 2 or 3 years, you can then apply for permanent residence, and you don't even have to worry about it anymore. Although if it's permanent income, you'll probably keep it anyway. So the next one is the investor's visa. So the investor's visa, you have to invest 500,000 soles in some business or market or something that is Peruvian based, and the money has to first come to a Peruvian bank account and then be invested in another company with contracts. And if you're doing that amount of money, you're gonna have a lawyer involved anyway. But that comes out to about $125,000, $130,000 that you would have to have invested. And at that point, you just have to reapply for 2 years. And then if you continue it for 2 years, then you will be able to get a permanent resident visa as well, or permanent residence. Then you don't have to continue to apply anymore as well. So for our more affluent watchers, that might be the route that you go. If you have a bunch of investments in the US, but maybe you don't really go dividend, you go growth based, and you don't really make enough to pass that 1,000 consistently, maybe you just take 125,000 of your stuff and invest it. You can also just take 125,000, create your own company, and invest it in that Peruvian company. The only catch to that is you have to employ a few people. So I think it's exactly 4 Peruvians that need to be employed. The minimum wage is, I think it's 1,200 soles a month, or $400. Multiply that by 4 or 5 people. That's about 2,000, 1,600 a month that you'll have to pay out. So you'll probably want to build an actual business at that point. And then the next option and last option is you can open up your own enterprise here in general and give yourself a work visa. And basically that's going to take the cost of making the enterprise, which this is what I have chosen to do. It cost me about $450 to make it, and it's going to take me about $400 to get 2 people work visas through that company. And because I am a general manager and my partner, who is also here, is a different kind of, I think, social media manager or some sort of, I forget what our specific exact titles are, but we needed to have titles of like managing front. There's 3 possible titles, so I think you can give 3 out that way. Otherwise, you would have to employ people, and that gets a little dicey. You're going to want to talk to a lawyer about that. But then you do that for 3 years. You have to be in Peru for all of these options 183 days out of the year in order for your visa to stay valid and in order for you to build towards a permanent residence visa. After you strike that point, you apply and you can come and go as you please. So it's not too bad. As far as general costs go of being here, it really depends on where you are. In the Sacred Valley, I would say my partner and I splurge a little bit, and there's two of us, and we spend sometimes $2,000 a month if we buy a bunch of products, and if we buy a bunch of appliances, that's a lot of money that we spend sometimes. However, the general month, if we really cut back all expenses and just live normally, which we've done some, we just run a business, so our expenses tend to be higher. We could probably get it down to like $500 a month for two people. That includes rent, food, and everything. But again, it depends on where you're living, the house that you're renting, the cost, all this different stuff. If you're buying, there's a lot that goes into it. But I would consider $1,000 a month per person to be a good budget, a safe budget for the foreseeable future. If you can make it, I don't know, if you've got 10 years left, you probably need $120,000 per person, and I know that's really more of a way to look at it, like if you have that left, but yeah, so keep that in mind as well. If you have investments and money coming in, which I would hope if you're retired you have some level of continuous income at that point, whether it's Social Security. Also, rewinding back to the retirement visa, Social Security does count towards that amount. Fast forwarding back again. So yeah, there's lots of options. If I missed anything big, blinding that this 25-year-old brain did not consider, let me know in the comments down below, and I will do my best to answer it. Otherwise, if you just want to come and look at Peru and see the beautiful things that it has to offer, you can, first of all, check out my other videos. YouTube thinks this one is perfect for you. It might be about Colombia, but otherwise, most of them are about Peru. And down here, I've got a subscribe button that you can click to ensure the best retirement for you, although I probably won't make very many more retirement videos. I will make more Peru videos though, so if that's something you're interested, cool. Otherwise, I will see you soon.